rigorous process. There was a lot of unknowns for me because it was new to me, but also just because there is a lot of detail to the compliance that the state looks at. So I survived it, needless to say, and was grateful for that. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my background. I have a background in business. I graduated from the University of Arizona in 2003 with a degree in business finance. After that, I went on to work in the lending industry, then I worked in the real estate industry, and then in the assisted living industry. And a commonality with all three of those is that you need to have an attention to detail, and you also need to be very good with paperwork. So given that, and given my personality type, I didn't want to just survive another compliance inspection. I actually really wanted to do well, and I wanted to nail it, and I made it a goal for myself that, hey, maybe I can even get through one of these with 0 deficiencies. Wouldn't that be cool to do in my career? So that's a little bit about that background. So coming more to the present day, in 2014, in December of 2014, I switched gears and I stopped working in Oro Valley and I started working for Desert Bloom Relief Center in East Tucson. And I am the retail manager as well as head of compliance, as I mentioned earlier, for the retail as well as the cultivation sites. So today's panel is about unique concerns when running a cannabis business. So the business that I work in is dispensaries. So the topic that I'm touching on right now, which is a unique concern to people, is how do you keep your license? Well, how you keep your license, a big part of that is by meeting state compliance and not giving the state reasons to come into your store and have problems with how you're doing things or because you're not following their rules. So how do you keep state compliance? How do you get good at that? How did I get good at that over the last 3.5 years? Well, you have to really dig into the inspection reports that they're going to come in and evaluate you with. The nice thing with the way that things are laid out for the dispensaries is that everything is on paper in front of you. It's on a checklist. And so if you read through that and be familiar with those items, you can get through a state inspection. It's literally just going down and noting that they're going to look at everything. In Arizona, the dispensaries are overseen by the Arizona Department of Health Services, and they have a website that's very helpful. So if you go to the Arizona Department of Health Services website, and then you dig a little deeper into the medical marijuana program, and then you have literally fields for anything that you could be interested in, from dispensary agents, physician questions, patient questions, and then also for dispensaries. You dig a little deeper and you can find these checklists, and you can find forms, and you can find instructions, and all of these things you can print out and reference them frequently and get very familiar with them, because that's basically how you meet state compliance, is by following the rules and knowing what they're looking for. The inspection that I have mentioned to you earlier was a compliance inspection, and the form that you'll see online now is called a dispensary inspection report. It's no longer 205 points like it was in 2013. It's gone through some revisions over time, and they've done a great job with it, actually. It's 52 sections now, and within those sections there is multiple topics that they cover. So they took the 205 and condensed it into 52. So it makes the inspection go faster, which is nice. They don't take 4 to 5 hours anymore like they used to. You can get them done within 1 to 2 hours, which is pretty nice. The broad areas covered in this state inspection checklist is areas covering guidelines for administration, for inventory control, security, and also sanitation and cleanliness. Just going a little deeper into those topics, for administration, they lay out really set guidelines for what they want to see you develop in your policies and procedures. They also give guidelines for the medical director, because all the dispensaries have to be overseen by a medical director. In the inventory control section, there's guidelines stipulating that you need to count all of your inventory every 30 days. And there's also very specific requirements on batching. So having the different strains that are grown batched together and following that through along the way in the process, which we do via barcodes. Regarding security, which we're going to talk about a little bit more with another panelist here, Manny, there are stipulations on having a trip plan if you're going to be transporting anything medicated throughout the state, and very specific points on what needs to be on that. There's also specific locations they want to see your cameras, and certain viewpoints they want you to capture, and more details on security are to come. For sanitation and cleanliness, they touch on that you need to have hand washing sinks, where those need to be. They also will cover other basic guidelines for good hygiene and good practices whenever you're processing anything medicated. So to address the concern of how do you keep your license, you do it with good compliance, and how you do good compliance is you learn this type of a report like I'm talking about now, inside and out. You go and download it, and you just start studying it and learn it. Another way you can keep your license is to avoid violations with the state. So the state can have a violation against a dispensary in a number of different ways. Just an example of one way you could get a violation is if a patient was sold over their limit. So every patient has a 2.5 ounce limit that they're allowed to purchase every 14 days. And that limit is kept an eye on every time a patient visits a dispensary. And the dispensary is required to log that purchase into the state system, so that there's this rolling 14-day period always accumulating how much the patient's purchased. So the dispensary is supposed to say, okay, what's left in that purchase amount if they've already purchased, and not sell over it. But if they did, which it can happen very easily, they get a violation against them, and then the state comes in and they do, you know, a different type of an inspection, not a compliance inspection, but I think it's called a violation inspection on whatever the topic is. So you want to avoid those. And how do you avoid them? Well, you can avoid them by hiring good people and giving good training. So another unique concern in the dispensary business is, how do you hire good people? I don't know if you all know, but anybody that works in the dispensary has to have a dispensary agent card. The dispensary agent card costs $500 for each person, and it's only good for 1 year. And that person also goes through a background check. They have to submit fingerprints, and those go through the state's background check system, and they're looking for certain types of felonies. But that's a pretty high upfront cost. I don't know any other business that actually has to pay to hire people, but we do. And you want those hires to stick. You don't want those people leaving after. You don't want to have a high turnover rate in a dispensary. It's just too costly. So how do you find good employees? And I do a lot of hiring. At Desert Bloom, we now have 50 employees. So thank you. So I've done a lot of this, and I've done it previous in other jobs that I've had. So I just put a few things together for all of you as to what I think are ways that you can find good people. Number one, require at a minimum that they turn in a resume to you that also has references. And you should strongly encourage these candidates to write a cover letter. There is a lot of information that you can obtain from a cover letter that otherwise you wouldn't be able to pick up off of just a resume. Number two, you want to look for candidates who have a passion that is true and sincere to work in the industry. I can't tell you how many people I've come across who say, oh yeah, it's just the next gravy train. Yeah, I just want to get in now because this is the next up and coming thing. And you know, they're just, you know, looking for an easy way to make money. But this is a passionate industry. and we're helping people. And even if it goes recreational, we're still helping people, just a lot more of them. So look for people with passion. Number 3, look for candidates with a good time on job from their previous work history. This one is really huge. I've seen it time and time again. The people that we hire who might have those short times on jobs or gaps in work history, they don't last the year. You know, the folks where we follow the system, they stay. You would also want to look for people who have a passion to grow with the industry, because that's also going to be somebody who's not just looking for something for right now, or for something to grow with your company with, because this is a new industry. There are a lot of opportunities, so definitely look for them to grow with your industry. On their resume work history, number 4, look for relevant work experience in areas like retail, customer service, even bartending. Bartenders make very good budtenders. It's like some skills that cross over. And also even prior experience in the cannabis industry, either in Arizona or in another state. That previous experience sometimes can work for you or against you. Sometimes you have to train against it a little bit too, so you want to interview those people with a little bit stricter of a guideline. Always have more than one person interview the candidate as well. It's a practice that we keep, and it helps to have multiple perspectives, and different people will pick up on different things in a candidate. And finally, if the candidate does have previous experience in the industry or previous experience, especially in cultivation, that directly will help your organization. If they're a good fit for you, you should consider paying those individuals at a higher rate. You do get what you pay for in a lot of things in this world, and that goes with good talent and good people. And so if you do find that talent, definitely think about at least compensating them more. So since December of 2014, that was my very first compliance inspection I told you about, to today, I've been through 8. 6 of those have been directly these state compliance inspections. And I am happy to report that in March of this year, I did actually attain a 0 deficiency compliance inspection. So I did reach my goal and was very happy about that. That concludes what I have to say today. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you for attending the conference, and these other gentlemen will be speaking to you next.